Evening. Welcome to the May 15th, 2023 meeting of the Dover School Committee. My name is Sarah Gutierrez-Dunn, and I call this meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. We are pleased to hold this open meeting at Chickering School this evening and are also live streaming with DSC TV. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. First on our agenda this evening is community comments, and we have provided a Zoom link for those who wish to make a comment, but for whom it is not possible or preferred to attend in person this evening. Please remember that community comments are an opportunity for members of the school committee to listen to members of the community. It is not a forum for answering questions or engaging in a debate. We respectfully request that you please make your comments brief, no more than 3 minutes, and that you move the discussion forward by adding new information. Please try to avoid repeating points that have already been made. Once the public comment section of the meeting has been concluded, we will move on to other business, and unsolicited comments from the community will no longer be permitted. This is standard operating procedure in school committee meetings across our 3 school districts. Is there anyone here with us or on the Zoom who would like to make a community comment tonight? Please raise your hand if so. All right, please. This is great. Yes, you can sit, but if you would please just introduce yourself and make your comment.
Hi, my name is Renee Grady. I currently teach 2nd grade at Chickering. I've taught 1st, 3rd, and 4th. This is my 23rd year teaching at Chickering. I live in Walpole with my husband and dog, and my son is graduating from BC next Monday to high school. So I'm here for a couple of reasons. First of all, there seems to be some loud misinterpretation of what's being taught in our schools today, and I thought maybe I could provide some perspective. In my classroom, I of course teach reading, writing, math, science, and social studies, but there's so much more that I do as well. We talk about kindness, we read books and have discussions about how people are different, we talk about equality, we talk about loving ourselves, we encourage kids to be the best versions of themselves, and we talk about being happy. To clarify, the DEI initiative and the equity audit haven't changed my classroom or forced me to teach anything. It's made me a more reflective of my students and of myself, and it's made me a better teacher. The second reason I'm here is to provide some thanks to people who probably don't hear them enough. First, I'd like to thank our administration. Beth and Denny are excellent. I've never felt more supported or inspired by our superintendent. Beth McCoy makes me a better person and an educator. She is 100% in it for teachers and the kids, all of the kids. Denny is a joy and powerhouse. My classroom refers to him as my other boss. He adds knowledge and insight to our community, and he is entertained by my personal obsession with Harry Styles. Deb and Jim are the core of Chickering. They're in our classrooms and know our kids and the teachers. They're here for all of us. I also wanted to thank all of you, the school committee members, for the endless number of hours you put in, but more importantly, for your commitment and perspective that you provide for Chickering. We're very lucky to have you. Lastly, I'm thankful for all of you, and of course the parents who trust me to teach their kids. All of this really gives me hope for their future.
Thank you, Mrs. Grady. Okay. Mrs. Hugo?
Hi, I'm Michelle Hugo. I live in Norwood, and I have a lovely 12-mile commute to school each day. It's a really pretty ride. During this time, I have the radio off and I'm focusing on the day ahead of me, but lately my thoughts are occupied by the unkind words spoken during public comments at joint and regional school committee meetings. While I wholly support the process of open public comments, I do believe it should be civil and respectful. It did not feel that way to me. I felt personally attacked as an educator and as a co-founder of the Rainbow Club at Chickering. I've been at Chickering for a short 15 years, and I currently teach 2nd grade. Previous to working in Dover, I taught at the Balch School in Norwood and Philipsburg Union School in Vermont. The reason I mention my previous places of employment is to share that I have worked with and have had exposure to other communities, administration, and school committees outside of Dover. In comparison and through my experiences, I believe that this district excels at considering the whole child. Administration and the school committee members do their research and ask all the questions that lead to bettering Dover-Sherbrooke. I have found they're good listeners and are willing to consider other points of view and change course if needed. In the past, I've served as a union representative and on 3 negotiation teams, and it's always been collegial, respectful, and friendly. We all have one thing in common: we're here for the students. I want to thank the Dover community the current and past members of the school committee and the current and past members of administration for the guidance and leadership into the 21st century in education. You have my support and I appreciate the time, effort, and energy you put forth to make our schools a better place. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hugo. Anyone else who would like to share a community comment, either here or on the Zoom? All right, well, thank you. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is a presentation concerning the Metro West survey results. And Beth, perhaps I might turn it over to you to introduce the guests that we have with us this evening to share this important information.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Ms. Ellen Shagnon. She's our K-12 Director of Guidance, and Ms. Laura McGovern, who is our 6 through 12 Wellness Director, who are here. They do an incredible amount of work, not only educating and guiding our students through their education, but in terms of gathering data to see where we can better support our students and where we can work together with parents in the community to do so, because it does take a village to raise our kids. So tonight they're here to share some of their findings from the most recent Metro West Adolescent Health Survey, what trends we see, and how we can better support our kids. So Ms. Shagnon and Ms. McGovern, thank you.
Okay. Hi, thank you very much for having us this evening. I really appreciate it. We've spent this year, the 22-23 school year, really going around to different groups, school committees, PTOs of all 4 buildings, and all of the 4 buildings faculty meetings to share the information that we're about to share with you on the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey as an opportunity to just raise awareness of not only what it is, but the information it gives us and what we can do with this information and what we do with this information. So the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey we've been participating in conjunction with the Metro West Health Foundation since 2010. In 2021 was our 6th survey administration, and we survey students in grades 7 through 12 every other year. 2020, we were supposed to run the survey in 2020, and obviously it didn't happen. So we knew that when we received the 2021 survey results, they were going to be a little bit off or different because we now had spanned 3 years, not 2. The students had been through COVID, and the survey was conducted on computers, not a pencil and paper survey. So there were 3 factors that caused us to just look at the numbers in a little bit of a different way. Historically, after we administered the survey in grades 7 through 12 in the fall, and then we received the results in the spring, and when we get the results back, Ellen and I sit and pour through the data in the summer and decide what programs, what ideas, what initiatives need to be moved forward. So whether it's parent education evenings, programming, challenge success, grit, bridge, staffing, different programs through health education in grades 7 through 12, curriculum changes, and so what we've realized after poring over the 2021 survey results is with all of the programming and all of the different initiatives that we've put forth, we're not moving the needle the way we want to. So we decided to do a little exploring last fall and see how other communities share their survey results, and realize that there are a lot of different communities have community coalitions. So it's not just the schools, it's public safety officials and business leaders and faith-based organizations in the communities. And it's a community coalition, and it's because our students are, the kids are with us 6.5, 7 hours a day, some longer, depending on the activities they do after school. But they're also out in the community. They're in youth sports, they're in youth drama, they're in different activities in and about the community, youth groups, faith-based youth groups. So it was our initiative this year to say, okay, how can we spread the word more community-wide to have more ownership of this data? So that's sort of started our traveling roadshow. What I've handed out to you are just They're infographics. It's a packet of infographics that the Metro West Health Foundation kind of at a glance gives us a comparison of different data statistics. I will say the one thing that made, which is so timely, the 2021 survey results, the Metro West Health Foundation also created for all of the 26 communities that participate with it supplemental data. So looking at students, they created 5 categories. Students who identify as LGBTQ+, race, physical disabilities, learning disabilities, students who have lived in the U.S. for less than 2 years, and students whose primary language is not English at home. And looked at some of the key factors and indicators and compared those groups to the groups that don't identify. And not surprising, we found that stress, anxiety, mental health were higher among those groups of students. And so it just speaks to the critical work that we're doing in taking a look at DEI, our curriculum work, and the initiatives that we've started this year. Right? Yeah. In terms of numbers that we really focus on and know that some positive results, looking at school connectedness, protective factors. What can help, knowing that, you start at a baseline, knowing that all students are going to feel stress and anxiety. That is a given. You can't take those things away. But what can we do, or how can we all work together to create protective factors, having school connectedness, and an adult in the building, both in the school building that they attend, either the middle school or high school, and outside of the building? Do they have someone that they trust and feels and supports them? So we do have very high school connectedness and protective factor numbers, which is wonderful. Some areas of concern, we're starting to focus more on students who use their phones for 3 hours or more on non-school work have higher rates of stress and anxiety than students who don't use their cell phone for 3 hours a day or more on non-school work. So, focusing on that.
Yeah, and also they're more likely to be exposed to cyberbullying, as well as kind of depressive symptoms from being kind of on the phone so much and looking at different sites and social media. One thing that's been, I think, really helpful this year is rolling out, we started to roll it out last year, to our Panorama Social Emotional Learning Skills Survey that we do with students in grades 3 through 12, because there's, and just speaking to Laura's point about connectedness, there's a category around sense of belonging where we're able to see, where students are kind of rating in that area. And we have staff who are reaching out to those students either through group work or individually to kind of, make that connection with them and see how they can support them. So where the Metro West data is anonymous, we don't necessarily know who's writing what, but when we can go to the Panorama survey and be able to attach that to a person and really make a difference and, put some sort of intervention in place, that's been great to kind of tag team between the two surveys. So I think that's a big thing that's helped us this year too, getting to students, as well as I think different programming in schools, like Laura made reference to, through the survey results over time, we've been able to bring in more programming and more staffing to support mental health needs, such as the center at both schools, the Bridge and Grit programs at the middle school and high school, as well as increasing, we have a school counselor between both elementary schools this year, an added person. We have an SEL coach who's also with us tonight, who's made a great difference going into classes in the elementary schools and teaching Fly 5 SEL curriculum and helping teachers integrate that into their classroom, which has been a huge plus in terms of getting those SEL skills where they, kind of need to be. And the elementary counselors are using the data from Panorama to kind of focus those SEL skills within classrooms as well. So that's been wonderful as well. Over the years, we've also used the data in terms of bringing programming. Challenge Success was one of the programs we brought back in the 2013-14 school year, and used a lot of the data from the Metro West survey around stress and anxiety, because that's what kept coming up, is our students were really stressed and not able to really have the coping skills to deal with the stress. And so Challenge Success was kind of, I think that was a lot of the support behind it, was like, we have this data from Metro West to say our students need something to kind of make a little bit of a change to reduce some of the stress and anxiety, not get rid of it altogether, because we know it'll still be there. I know Beth has used the statistics and the DEI information she shared with the community as well around many of our student populations who are struggling in different areas, as Laura said before, with the supplemented data. And we also continue through Challenge Success and the PTO's positive is the parent education piece. We every year try to have a speaker come in around mental health, student wellness, anxiety, depression, social media, and we will continue to do that as long as we can to have that information for parents and teachers as well. Internally, curriculum updates, like through our guidance curriculum, we utilize a lot of the information to change different topics we're covering with students based on the results. You do the same through health, I know, over the years.
Yeah, we're revamping the middle school health curriculum in 7th and 8th grade. I do think it's important, even though it's students in grades 7 through 12, Dover-Sherburne, proudly we can say we have an incredibly high participation rate. I think it's at 92% at the middle school and 96% at the high school. And that percentage of, sometimes students are just out because they're sick. So we have very few people opting out of the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey, which is great for us. It means that these communities care about their students and our students collectively, and it does provide us with a data point and a data set to, along with everything else we do, to give us guidance on where to put our time and energy. I do really appreciate coming here at the elementary level, simply because that's where the conversations have to start. They can't wait until middle school. Yeah. The work in families in these communities, really, it has to start when they're young. And it's nice that, at the elementary level, if you just, think of it in this way, you've got a classroom of 15 to 23 kids, and it's a family. So you have this little insular protected family, and they truly become a family throughout the school year through their experiences. And then when they get to, the transition from 5th to 6th, and they start to branch out and they have different teachers and they're moving in classrooms. And yes, they're with a team, with the team model, but they're moving around a little bit more. So it makes perfect sense that those protective factors that are there built in at the elementary level, there's a shift. So it's how to encourage kids when they transition to 6th grade to get involved with the school, to join a club, to do activities, so they can create they can create the relationships and find the adults in the building that they connect with, because there are so many different adults in the buildings with opportunities, and get them through 8th grade. And then the shift happens again where they're more focused on whatever activities that they're interested in. But having a family help their student find ways to connect with the school is super important, because those protective factors are what can help them. I mean, as I said at the beginning, we know students are going to feel stress and anxiety. They do. I mean, it's a part of growing up. It's how can, and we have these amazing guidance departments with wonderful faculty members to help them if the stress or anxiety gets to be too much. But there's so many other adults in the building that they connect with every day, so having the conversations now in the elementary level among adults to prepare for, okay, what are things I need to help encourage my child to do when they get to the middle school, and not worry as much. I feel like I'm going back, because we were talking about this the other day, tagging back into Challenge Success. is that sometimes the stress, and at least I see it a lot at the high school, the comparing of themselves to others. And, comparison is the thief of all happiness. So how do we encourage our own children to work really hard to not compare themselves to others, that just be proud of what you do every day and do the best you can. And I think that that messaging has to start really young and really often, so they can just, be who they are. I love your t-shirt. You're exactly where you need to be.
And we're looking forward to the survey will be administered in November of this year. So it'll be very, I think, interesting to see the results. They usually come out in the spring, early spring, because, the 2021 was coming off of 2 really tough years. So to see has, mental health improved some of that from where we were in 2021, and that, we hope that has. But again, it's, so we're looking forward to kind of seeing all of that information too in the next year and see where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any questions for us?
Questions, comments from committee members?
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming here to do this presentation for the elementary school parents. I love this. I look at this all the time. I'm pouring through, and I see these trends, and I'm wondering what we can do at the elementary level, what parents can do to support, or head off some of these trends. I know the girls are engaging in more risky behaviors than the boys are at this point. Where is that coming from? And I think a lot of this that we can address at the elementary level is the social media. They do start 4th, 5th grade. I know because my daughter's in 6th grade and she's Snapchatting with 5th graders, and I'm it's all starting, seems like a little earlier. And so if it is leading to mental health issues later on, is that something we need to be doing, at the elementary level to let parents know, this is, directly linked to depression and anxiety? As we get more of that data, we can sort of beef up our messaging here at the elementary school with parents. What are some other trends that you've seen?
So I even think of with Michelle talking about the Rainbow Club.
Mm-hmm.
We need Rainbow Clubs at the elementary level. When you look at the data, the supplemental data for the students in the middle school who identify as LGBTQ, it's concerning. So, having exposure and feeling that they are a part of a school community is really important. And so that visibility is important. Yes, girls and social media is detrimental. And that just, there's lots of information there was a great interactive article on Boston Globe about social media use in high school. Maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I have it on my computer. I don't have it. Finding ways to integrate. Technology can be a wonderful thing. It's a way to stay connected, and it is a part of our world. And it's never going to go away. But how to help teach kids how to use it in positive ways and diminish the hurtful ways. That's the balance. That's figuring that out.
And the data on females is definitely trending in all Metro West communities.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just DS. It's we're pretty similar to other.
When we compared ourselves, so the beautiful thing about the Metro West data is that not only it shows the key indicators, it shares data among grade, sex, trends, and then it also compares us to the other Metro West districts. And there isn't one data point that we aren't right on par with our other 25 districts. So every district is going through this. We're not alone. And we're all working together. The Metro West Health Foundation does have they have these I don't want to call them not coffees. No, it's not a conference either. It's like a gathering.
Community conversation.
Community conversations, but among health educators, school nurses, guidance counselors, administrators, and they're starting to look at the data through an equity lens. That's their sort of theme moving forward, which is great. So how can we create, we do know there, our girls are having much higher reports of depressive symptoms than our boys. At the same time, when you look at the protective factors, there, we do have high numbers of students who do have a member in the building that they can go to. I mean, ideally we want it to be 100%, and hopefully we see those numbers go up and increase.
And we have been doing some things with Laura's group, her women's group, working with middle school students. And we've had
Now when they
students
come to
from
Chickering,
elementary too, right? You're
yeah.
right. Coming down and working with students at the middle school and elementary school.
Yeah, I have some rock star seniors, and they come down to talk to the fifth graders about body image and friends, how to be kind.
Social media. All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So trying to create connections with some of our students and have them, with the seniors, because they can drive, so they can, and they have senior privilege, so they can actually get, they can find a couple of people to get here and connect them. It's nice. The kids love it.
Yeah.
They love the big girls. It's awesome.
Other questions, comments? One question that I had, clearly correlation is not causation, and there are many different forces at work that affect mental health among students. But have you seen any trends in DS since the time that we adopted challenge success and were sort of more intentional about social emotional learning in the elementary schools and other schools, in terms of, that needle hopefully moving at all, or, being able to sort of counteract some of these other forces that may be mounting in the world?
That's a great question. And I think a part of our challenge is how do we make partnerships, with other places and spaces that our students are. I think it's important, and I talk to, and I'm only speaking from my lens and my experiences at the high school, when I'm speaking with some of the coaches that I'm friends with, and we're noticing trends among our female athletes, and we're having conversations. So I know the conversations I'm having in my health class, they're also having out on the track field. And hearing it from multiple different people is really important. I will say with Challenge 6, so, and we can't, there's no one size fits all model. So that's why we started this year saying, we really need to get out to the community. And it can't just be housed in grades 7 through 12. We need to, so this is like step one for us of doing this. We were hopeful that this spring we could have some big event, but that never, it just kind of time got away from us. I think with Challenge Success, what is hard is that we're a high achieving school district. And above all else, it is natural, unfortunately, to see kids comparing themselves, with grades, with looks, with activities, with, everything.
Right.
And grades, it's placement. We were talking about middle school when kids start to get leveled. That's big. And it starts younger because, the amount of tutoring that younger kids are experiencing, so they're prepared when they get to the middle school to make it into a particular level in a particular subject. It's like, we're missing growth mindset wholeheartedly, and that, their frontal lobes, even as high school students, are still just starting to develop. So the adolescent brain isn't capable of doing what I think some people want them to do. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. It just means that they're not capable biologically yet to do it. And just, yeah. Somehow, I don't know how.
Just gonna say, as
$64,000 question.
I know.
as a guidance department too, we've been having since probably the past 10 years, really pointed discussions around balance and
Yes.
how much time you have in a day and in a week and the level of stress of your academic program versus your activities, and as well as having really sometimes challenging conversations around college fit and based on your high school experience and your level of involvement, activities and stress and that type of thing. So, and I know that happens at the middle school too, like just to your point of what was around, going 8th to 9th and choosing classes and really thinking about, how you were able to kind of be in the classes you were currently in and what next year will look like for you. So we're constantly doing that, I think, as a department, just to have those conversations, and we'll support whatever students want to do, but letting families and students know that, you just have to think about all these things as you make decisions moving forward, because the most important thing is student well-being.
Others? Well, thank you. Thank you very
Yes,
much
thank
for
you.
doing
Thank you for
this.
having us.
Yes. All right, next we have our superintendent report from.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
So I just have a few updates, and then I will pass it over to Dr. Reineman. The first is Dover has passed its budget for next year, so congratulations. We will be opening our schools here at Chickering and the region. And many thanks to Dawn in particular for putting all that work together, for all of you for asking good questions and helping her formulate that, and of course to our taxpayers who continue to make education a priority here in Dover and Sherburne. So very exciting news. 2 weeks out from Teacher Appreciation Day at Chickering. Thank you to our teachers who work hard on behalf of our kids every day. I give you kudos, Deb, for scheduling it the week before MCAS. That was brilliant. So you could actually enjoy the time with your kids as opposed to enjoying the time with the number 2 pencils and the Chromebooks. But we really do appreciate everything that you do. And to your point, teaching the math and the reading and the writing every day, as well as taking care of student social emotional wellness. Denny and I were having a conversation last week after our presentation, our safety presentation to parents. So while it's not, necessarily affecting our elementary schools right now, because our teachers are doing lockdown training with our elementary students, but at the middle and high school, we have Synergy 911 coming in to do the training with kids on how to lock down and barricade a room, which is the same people that do the training for teachers, and all of you know Jason well. And I think Denny and I were struck afterwards about listening to Jason explain to the parents in the audience what we expect of our teachers in a lockdown drill. It was a reminder that we trust you with our children and their lives in addition to their minds. So what you do is absolutely incredible. And it's really from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate it. So thank you.
Can't believe we're left.
I know, I missed that gem.
Just a reminder that we have lots of great information on the website. So we are patiently waiting for the new website to launch this summer, but in the meantime have tried to update our current/old website with lots of information, including the superintendent's entry findings, which kind of give you a glimpse into where DS is headed in the next 3 to 5 years. So I encourage people to see kind of what the values and strengths of the community are, where we can be going with academic excellence, challenge success, supporting our student social emotional wellness. There's lots of FAQs up there, so there's not one question that's been asked by a parent or community member that isn't now answered in our 50-plus page document of FAQs, including data from Ellen and Laura, so please check that out. And just an update for this team, I know coming out of the calendar discussion this year, setting next year's school calendar, there was a request that we create a calendar task force. So our first meeting is this coming Wednesday. We have a great mix of students, educators, administrators, parents, community members that will be coming together to do some research within our own community, other communities, and then getting you a proposal to consider by next January. So that's exciting. I'm happy to be working with that group. And lastly, as we close out the school year, Denny promised that he would just give us an update on the math curriculum pilot that he and Ms. Weiner have been working on this year.
Yes, and I'll say thank you for bringing up the new website. I was uploading the drone footage today of Chickering, and it's really, really cool. So that'll be very, very neat. Just a quick update on the elementary math pilot. So I presented at some point this year on it, giving an outline of our work for the year, our proposed timeline. So at this point in the fall, we had done a pilot of Eureka Squared. And now this spring, we finished our pilot of Illustrative. They were with 6 teachers for Eureka Squared, 6 teachers for Illustrative Math, and they did 1 unit. So it was pretty limited in terms of scope, but we asked them to teach 1 unit and to do 1 assessment from each unit as well. So throughout this time, we've been gathering information. We have some student attitude surveys that we've been gathering. Our math coach, Lindsay Weiner, has been sitting down with each of the pilot teachers and been going through our rubric that we've used to evaluate the different math programs. So we adapted that from the DESE rubric that's on the Curate website. And now we have a lot of information, and we are going to be meeting with all the pilot teachers next Tuesday so we can talk through their experiences, have them talk to each other, because one 4th grade teacher in one building did a different curriculum than a 4th grade teacher in another building, so we want them to share their experiences. It's been really, really important as we've been talking about this math pilot to value our teachers and, like Superintendent McCoy said, to value their expertise and the trust that we have in them. So their voices and their experiences in this pilot are going to be very, very important in terms of figuring out where we move from here. So in terms of next steps for the math pilot, a lot of it really is going to be determined next week when we meet and we talk with the teachers. There's some different possibilities for next year. So we could pick one of the programs, Illustrative or Eureka Squared, and do a more extensive pilot of one of those next year. We might realize that we need to see a little bit more than just 1 unit of each program, so we might pilot both programs a little bit more extensively next year. We've been continuing, Lindsay and I, to one of the really interesting things that we've done since the last time we presented on this is we've been reaching out to math coordinators and math directors from all of our local Metro West districts and having conversations with them about the math programs that they've been using. So that's been really good information to see what have been some of the pros and cons, what have been some of the bumps along the road in terms of implementation. So we have that information. And it's possible, too, that we might figure out that there is a different program that we also want to pilot. So we want to make sure that we are being very careful and we're doing our homework and our research on these programs and making the right decision. So after the more extensive pilot next year, it's possible that at the end of the next year, we might be in front of school committee asking for an approval on program. But as I mentioned, we really need to listen to the teachers, listen to the students, listen to the community as well. And we might find out a year from now that we're still not ready. But I think it's important not to kind of rush the process and make sure that we're making good choices for our math curriculum. I know, too, one of the things, if for some reason we do get to next year around this time and we're voting on a math curriculum, we want to definitely make sure that we are being very, very thoughtful about an implementation of a full program. We want to do it in various waves and maybe do a couple grades at a time each year. So we're not trying to do a K-5 implementation, because in my experience, trying to implement a whole program K-5 is very overwhelming, uses up a lot of resources. So I think we would want to do it in kind of a couple of waves to make sure that we have the capacity to support our teachers, because asking our teachers to change the way they're teaching, even if it's just one subject, they're the keepers of all of the subjects at the elementary level. So we have to be very mindful as well of teachers and everything that they're juggling and they're balancing.
Can you just talk a little bit about the process of selecting potential math programs before they even reach the teachers?
Yes.
About Ed Reports and Curate.
So that's a great question as well. So the process for coming up with Eureka Squared and Illustrative, there are a bunch of different factors that played a role into that. One of which is last year, this time, Superintendent McCoy did a survey of districts throughout Massachusetts to ask them what elementary programs they were using. We found that Illustrative and Eureka Squared were 2 of the most popular programs that were being used. There are 2 resources that we also heavily relied on. One is Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, their website called EdCurate, where they have a panel of teachers and professionals that have evaluated literacy programs and math programs. So we use those ratings by the EdCurate panel to determine which programs we felt like would be best. And then EdReports, which is a separate organization, does full reviews of various educational programs as well. So all these EdCurate and EdReports are looking at alignment to math standards. They're looking at teacher usability. They're looking at differentiation. They're looking at technology. They're looking at real-world connections that these programs are able to make. So they're taking into account all these factors when they come up with their ratings. So Eureka Squared and Illustrative also score very highly on EdReports and in our EdCurate as well.
Just to ask a clarifying question. So these are research-based math curriculums that are heavily researched. It's not, when you say pilot, you don't mean that we're just like testing out some random math curriculum that has no foundation in research, but it is research-based, proven to work, and used widely.
Yeah, definitely. And once you get into EdReports and EdCurate, you can see the amount of research that has gone into these programs. I mean, these are nationally recognized programs. They're programs that districts not only throughout Massachusetts, but throughout the country are using. So these aren't some kind of cobbled together math programs that we're trying out at our elementary schools. They're heavily vetted, heavily researched programs by math scholars, by teachers, by education professors. So definitely supported by research to support students in their development of mathematical critical thinking.
Can I just ask as well? I found as a parent, with kids coming home with everyday math, I found it very wordy. And, we've talked about before, if kids are struggling with reading, they then can struggle with math because they're not able to, it's overly wordy. Are these programs more accessible to more students who maybe have different learning modalities?
Yes, so it's funny that you asked that because just today, me and our math coach were having a discussion about the amount of words on a piece of paper and how we're assessing workbooks and the worksheets and the materials, because we don't want language to be a barrier to students and their access points into math. So one of the huge things that we're looking at when we eventually pick a program is going to be that differentiation factor. So for our struggling learners, does it offer supports? For our students who need interventions, for interventionists, can it provide them resources, lessons, go-to activities that they can do? But we're also looking at kind of the other side for students that want additional challenges, that feel like they're ready to step up and they want to do a little bit more math, looking at ways that we're meeting the needs all across the spectrum. So that's going to be a big, big factor in whichever program eventually gets chosen.
Great.
Thank you. That's great. Any other updates from you?
No, thank you.
All right. All right, that brings us to you, Dr. Reineman.
Excellent, thank you. Good evening and welcome. So nice to see everyone here tonight. My principal's report is chock full this month with reports on curriculum and end of the year assessments. And should you think that we're just coasting to the end, that is not true. Probably the most intense time of the year, excuse me. So we're doing our running records and DIBELS assessments at the end of the year, which will then be drawn into all of our data meetings at which a whole grade level team and the coaches and interventionists and Jim Kearns, who leads those meetings. And we look at how students have grown over the year, who might need help when we start the year up in September, so we start some early work, and places where we need to look at our instruction based on student data. While we're on assessments, we are still away with MCAS. We have 5th grade math and 5th grade science and technology next week, right, math? Yes, thank you. So we're almost done. And then we put out a survey to families about challenge success. We have a challenge success liaison now at Dover again, which we're very excited. Sandra Campanella is joining us, so she's going to be working with PTO and with us. And so we put a survey out to the Pine Hill families and the Chickering families to see what the priorities might be from their perspective, to help us think about how will challenge success be more on the ground with us next year. So we're looking forward to that data. The emergency response team is now meeting next Monday, so we'll get you more information on that. Beth talked about the meeting we had for parents about the plans for the high school and the middle school in terms of their emergency planning. Curriculum and learning, book clubs are right now in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Oh, it's so exciting. So in 3rd grade, they're reading a number of books from a series. So they get the idea of how a character develops over a set of books. If you've done that or remember doing that as a child, it's very exciting to watch how your character plays through the series. Perhaps not the way you had in mind for them. In 3rd grade, we're using our mentor text Because of Winn-Dixie, which we've used for a long time in 3rd grade, but now we're looking at how do those characters change over time as part of our readers workshop. And 4th and 5th graders are doing fiction genres. So 4th graders are looking at historical fiction, which it is difficult to find 4th grade appropriate historical fiction. I was part of the group that we had a whole set of books that Priscilla Stefan sent us home over April break to read as a 4th grader, and then come back and report on how it went. I think she gave me a hard one on purpose. And then 5th graders are working in fantasy books, which is exciting in 5th grade because then they really start to think about generating a character and on beyond kind of things that they can explore with that. We had May Day with our 2nd and 3rd graders, and we had a true maypole and English carols, and then we did a traditional Mexican song, and then even did the Russian folk song Sasha. And the parents were invited to dance with the kids as we did it. Weather kept us in the gym, which worked out fine. I think they had fun. And then coming up, of course, we have Flag Day, big holiday here. Field Day, June 7th, and our 5th grade promotion celebration, which will be the Thursday before the last day. The last day of school is a half day, the 16th. And Arts Night on Thursday. Make sure you're here. Gallery opens at 6. I've noted it's a 6:30 start. The gallery opens at 6. Our School Advisory Council, we provided the report on progress on our school improvement plan last year with lots of check marks. And so I put the same material into a summary document so you can decide which way you like reading better. If you have any feedback on that, I'd love to hear. The handbook we'll talk about later on. Personnel, Judy McConnell, her husband, expecting baby 2 at the end of June. So we'll have Megan Alexis in for her whenever that event occurs. Meredith Merritt is returning from her maternity leave this year, and we've already shared Mr. Hart and Mr. Wallace's retirements at the end of this year. Any questions? I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just one comment, field day is June 8th.
Oh, thank you. June 8th. With the rain date on June 9th?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, John.
I'm interested to hear about the STEAM Day.
Wait, I had it marked as you
I know.
talk about. Sorry. So we used to have the science fair, PTO, and it was at times usually successful, and other years it didn't quite jive, and it's a lot of work. And so working with Randy Benson, who is part of our curriculum enrichment team, we are going to try a STEAM Day, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math, May 26th. It's the Friday before.
I don't know that.
Looking for you to help me. The Friday before Memorial Day weekend. And we're using recycled materials. In each set of grades, we'll have a challenge. So did I write them in here? I didn't list them all. So the whole theme is our changing world. So how can we think about how we have an impact on the environment? In 4th and 5th grades, the challenge, hopefully we'll all be outside, we'll have lots of PTO helpers, and teachers will have a little preview to give to their kiddos ahead of time. This is your mission, this is your challenge when we get outside, this is what you're doing, and you're creating an animal that can survive in a particular environment. So we're expecting we'll provide 2 extreme environments, probably desert and underground, and given paper towel tubes and water bottles and a ton of tape and markers, can you design and build an animal that could survive in this extreme environment? And then you can take it home with you. Or put it into the recycle bins that we'll have here that will then deliver. So each, so 4th and 5th will have the same challenge, 2nd and 3rd, and K and 1. That's great. We're going to break down others. We'll see.
That's really exciting.
So I think the materials are coming up from PTO about sending in your clean, washed, safe, recyclable materials, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds great.
Exciting. Other questions, comments?
Thank you. Thank you.
We have one.
I just have a
Oh,
quick
sorry.
question. I just have a quick question about the book club. So,
Yes.
so how does how many books the kids are reading? How does it is designed?
Still here. you want to talk about fifth grade book clubs?
Sure.
Thank you.
So right now, as Deb mentioned, we're doing fantasy. So usually how it works is there's a lesson, usually a mini lesson, 10 minutes. That's kind of overarching. Right now I have my 19 kids in 5 different groups, kind of depending upon level, depending upon how well we work together at this point in the year. I'm making groups that are going to challenge each other, but not overly challenge me. And then depending upon some finish earlier than others, I may roll them into a next book. Where other books might be longer. So it kind of depends, but I would say at least the 4 or 5 level, you're usually looking at between 4 and 5 different groups with kind of each cycle that we go through, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. That's really nice. Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions, comments?
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ryman. Dawn, that brings us to the warrant report.
Great. So you have actually a pretty long warrant report because we haven't met for 2 months. So it covers March, April, and the first part of May. Again, if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to central office, and we are always appreciative of Liz going to town hall and signing those so the checks go out to our vendors. So thank you, Liz.
Yes.
Looking at your monthly report, so you have your financials as of April 30th and your special revenue and revolving funds as of March 31st. We do those on a quarterly basis. There's not a lot of bold in our looking at our status of operations. One thing I'll highlight is that we know out of district sort of continues to ebb and flow during the school year. So it's sort of flowed a little bit since the last time we met. And so your out of district tuition costs are now approximately $270,000 over budget. Last time we met, they were about $230,000. So we've had some change in placement and some temporary placements that have added additional tuition costs to that. Looking at sort of the bottom line of where we sort of sit is we're looking, if you look at the total operating, we're over budget by about $335,000. That is definitely being driven by your out of district, both your tuition and a little bit on the transportation. But I want to highlight in your sort of net operating results that we need to take in consideration too that we have actually been over budget in your SPED services. And those are the additional services that we've been providing to students here in district. Circuit breaker covers that as well. So that's why we aren't restricting spending in your in-district because technically circuit breaker's there to also cover that. So I wanted to highlight that because that's actually what's driving your negative in-district operating. So know that at the end of the year, the town has taken in $1.1 million of circuit breaker. We're able to move $1.1 million from your operating budget to the circuit breaker fund because we expend all that savings. So you won't have, at the end of the year, you won't have a negative variance because we have the circuit breaker sort of as a safety net. In fact, we'll be giving back theoretically to the town about $800,000 over what we budgeted. So that's just the difference in how Dover budgets for circuit breaker. If you come to the other elementary meeting, you're going to hear a little bit of a different story because they don't budget that way. And we actually had to go ask the town for more money because we also had an over budget situation in out of district there. But they build into their budget assuming they're going to get part of circuit breaker. So we didn't have a safety net. So think that's a good thing here. It's a little less stressful for us. But it's sort of interesting to see if you read your counterparts minutes or watch that, you'll sort of hear a whole different story than what Dover is experiencing. So I just wanted to highlight the part about the in-district because now that we've come further in the year and our expenses are continuing. I wanted to highlight that's the $20,000 of your in-district operating because technically we normally don't operate at a deficit there unless we have a reason that we can sort of tie back to for out of district. For circuit breaker. Any questions on the status of appropriations? Okay.
Is there other things that we forecast differently than Sherburne? I would imagine that all of our budgets were done similarly.
Yes, they are, except for house circuit breaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So say we say we're going to get $1.1 million a circuit breaker. When they do their general fund, they would say, okay, we're going to get $700,000 of that. We're going to apply to our budget. So their budget is already reduced by that.
Okay.
So they don't have $1.1 million as a safety net. they might have 300,000. In fact, they really had nothing this year. So anything that we went over, we had to go ask the town for more money because we didn't, because they assume they're going to use all of their circuit breaker in their general fund, because really that helps their budget as far as when they go to the taxpayers, right? Their budget is net of circuit breaker, where yours is all in. Also, just looking at your status of appropriation, your special revenue revolving funds, just a couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. So we will be seeing some additional revenues for building rental when we assess the DETA program for the use of the space. So remember, that's actually run by the region. So they're technically renting the space. And so I still have to do those invoices, so that will increase building rental. As you can see, circuit breaker, every dollar that comes in, we move expenses over to cover that. So at the end of the year and the beginning of the year, it always has a zero balance. Food services, I wanted to bring to I wanted to note that Janelle Madden, the Director of Food Services, actually requested a new piece of equipment for the kitchen. So I wanted to explain that to you, that we will actually fund that through the food service revolving fund. It's a tilt skillet of approximately $21,000. It's very versatile, actually. I want to come see it in action because it makes pasta, it can do grilled cheeses, it can make burgers, it can sounds amazing.
3 payments.
in one easy, yeah, exactly, with 3 easy payments. But that will be purchased this summer, and it actually is going to come into. It's needed. If you look at our participation rate, it's amazing where all of our schools have come. We're used to be in the high 40s, low 50s, and now we're in the 70s. So we're having the majority of students have their lunch from what's provided. So if you can think about that increase on the kitchen, we need larger pieces of equipment to be able to cook the number of meals. So we're actually doing upgrades in all of our kitchens. The beauty of that too is that universal free lunch is providing more revenue, and there's been a lot of incentives for local foods. We're really getting a lot of commodity money, and so we've been able to. I think when I first started, I think we had a negative fund balance in food service. And actually, when you have a negative balance in one of your revolving funds, you have to cover in your general fund. So we had to cover a negative food service. So it's amazing to me now that we've built back up the fund balance, and now it's allowing us to invest back in all the kitchens. So that's great news. And then while we have the statement, I just wanted to also highlight that in the budget process, we approved a second preschool classroom, and the staffing for that is going to be paid by your preschool revolving fund, so that you can see the balance there and understand where that money is coming from. Okay, so that gets us through fiscal year 23. I wanted to just sort of hop into 24 a little bit, and as Beth mentioned, the town of Dover did approve both our operating budget as well as our capital projects. So the classroom flooring and the fire control panel, we're in the planning stages for both those projects. And then we're continuing to monitor your fiscal year 21 enrollment numbers. Right now, kindergarten is at 61. If you recall, when we talked about the budget process, that was the one we were watching, because right now that's not quite enough to have 4 sections. So we will continue to watch that and see where the numbers go. Right now, 3 sections with your 61 is about 20. If you had 4 sections with that number, you're looking at 15. So that's below. So right now, 20 would keep us in our class policy range. 15 would put us below. We'll monitor that weekly, and as long as those numbers, if they move, then we'll be able to react. But I just wanted to keep that on your radar. All other grades as of May 1st are falling within what we projected, and then therefore what we budgeted.
Thank you. Other questions or comments regarding the financial reports?
Just a quick one. You mentioned the universal free lunch. Is that continuing into next school year?
So this year it was funded by the state.
Right.
It is in several of the budgets. We've got the governor's budget, the Senate budget, the House budget. It's in 2 of the 3 right now. Most likely, I'm thinking it will continue, but at this point, it's a state funding, not federal anymore. But I think the plan is that that's going to just become part of schools is lunch to be included.
Yeah. That's great. Other questions? Comments? All right. Well, thank you very much, John. All right, that brings us to the proposed changes to the 2023-2024 Chickering Student Handbook.
The only
Dr. Ryan,
changes
back to you.
are to update the bullying policy, which school committees had approved in
January?
January, yes. So just to make sure that those are updated and in the document as well, and to clean it up visually. If you look at it now, it's pretty dense. So we're looking to just clean up the actual format of it, but the content won't change.
So it's literally like linking to the current version of the.
Exactly. So it'll have the same
Policy
introductory
and the plan.
paragraph, the same
Right.
required legal at the end, and then the links right there.
Okay.
If you're looking for information, you're going to want to go and read the whole policy. If you want to know just the oversight, that first paragraph is sufficient. So put that exact text in for our June meeting. If that's required. Do you think I need to do that? That we're going to clean up just the format?
It's just housekeeping and the way it's organized.
Maybe just a sample. I mean,
Yeah.
if-
Yeah.
There. Okay.
Yeah.
Right off of that. Oh, great. Thank you.
Other questions about the handbook? All right, thank you. Well, look forward to the second read at the June meeting.
Excellent.
The consent agenda for this meeting consists of the minutes of our March 9th, 2023 meeting. Are there any questions or comments concerning the draft minutes? All right, in that event, I'd like to invite a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thanks, Jeff. Is there a second?
Go ahead, second.
Thanks. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Members will also notice that we have included the meeting minutes from the Regional School Committee for their meetings of February 7th and February 15th, 2023, as well as the Sherburne School Committee meeting minutes from February 7th and March 14th, 2023. So this brings us to the point of our meeting where we are going to take a moment to recognize those members who are going to be moving on from the school committee. And so before we adjourn this evening, I would like to take a moment to recognize our colleague Colleen Burt, who has graciously dedicated her time and considerable talents to serving on the Dover School Committee for the last 3 years. Colleen's many contributions include, but are not limited to, serving as our committee's liaison to the Chickering School Advisory Council and the DF Sustainability Committee, lending her background in social work to the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office Youth Substance Abuse and Mental Health Task Force, and co-chairing the Superintendent Search Committee that led to the appointment of our Superintendent, Ms. McCoy. Colleen has demonstrated an unfailing focus on the education of the whole child and has been a keen advocate for student mental health and well-being alongside academic excellence. And so over the past 3 years, I have gotten to know and appreciate Colleen as someone who is as highly capable as she is immensely caring. And so please join me in thanking Colleen for her service. And tonight also marks the end of my term. No, you want me to thank you?
I actually was going to speak about both of you. So I want to recognize Sarah Gutierrez Dunn, who has been a stalwart member of the Dover Sherburne School Committee since September 2021. Sarah is emblematic of how fortunate we are to have a dedicated and caring volunteers in our town. An alum from both Harvard undergrad and Harvard Law School, she is a seasoned attorney who has brought practical experience to our work. She is bright and detail-oriented and brought a unique lens to the school committee. I will miss Sarah's ability to wordsmith any document thrown her way. Sarah, thank you for all that you've done for the school committee. And Colleen. I'm sad to bid farewell to Colleen Burt. Colleen and I first met when we had newborns and both lived in Boston. So when she suggested that I get involved with Dover schools, it was nearly impossible to say no. Colleen has an infectious warmth and passion for our children. She has been a volunteer leader in Dover with too many organizations to enumerate. She has a valuable background with a keen expertise in mental health and always brought an empathetic and practical perspective to our work. I have great admiration for you both, but also for her unique brilliance as a caring and thoughtful bridge builder. We will miss her on this committee, but know that she will continue to have a great impact in our town. Colleen, thank you for being you. Thank you, guys. We have some parting gifts. Tony, thank you.
Thank you. You poke me and I cry. I told you guys, oh, that's wonderful.
This is very special. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say a few things?
Sure.
So tonight marks the end of my term on the Dover School Committee, and it has been an honor and a privilege to serve, especially in the company of such committed colleagues as my fellow committee members, past and present. I am so grateful to Superintendent McCoy and her leadership team, to our Chickering principal, Dr. Reineman, and Assistant Principal, Mr. Carnes, to the rest of our talented administrators, educators, and staff for their unparalleled dedication during a time that has been replete with challenges, but during which their commitment to inspiring, challenging, and supporting all students to discover and pursue their full potential has been unwavering. It's safe to say that I had little to no inkling of the challenges we would face when I was first nominated to run for school committee in March of 2020, just days before the declaration of the pandemic and ensuing school closures. Yet I am so proud of what we have worked together to accomplish during this time, from navigating a return to in-person school for our youngest learners on a schedule far more expedited than many of our neighboring towns, to the work that is being done in our districts currently to pursue academic excellence alongside inclusivity, rigor along with equity and compassion. And if I might offer one final observation from my vantage point as a school committee member during this most memorable time, over the last 3 years, I have seen the best in our community on display on those occasions when we work together constructively and collaboratively to address the challenges we face. When we listen to each other, when we treat each other with respect and civility, even and especially when we disagree. No matter what challenges remain or what is yet to come, I am hopeful that if we commit as a community to those values, we can face them to our collective benefit and most importantly, to the benefit of our children. Thank you. So that brings us to our adjourning this evening.
I just want to say thank you guys so much. This, I've been running for office and these are what it's all about. So I really appreciate being able to put it on my wall. I'll continue to live it. We all do every day. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank everyone.
All right. Well, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.